Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We remind you this is a hybrid event. Some people will be in person, some people will be attending remotely. One important note is that this is the only session, a keynote, opening keynote right now at 9 a.m. It will be followed by a panel that will expand on the topics of the keynote at 9:45. But please note in the program that the first set of panels also starts at 10:20. So while the first follow-up panel is occurring, 3 more panels will be starting at 10:20, and you are, of course, free to attend whichever you would like. There's food, coffee, refreshments available throughout the day at no cost. We don't have specific food breaks precisely so that people can grab food whenever they feel like it. We're going to get started, and our opening keynote speaker is Professor Elias G. Karayanis from the Information Systems and Technology Management program at George Washington University here in Washington, D.C. It's a short keynote, so I'm not going to take more time, and I will now give the floor to Professor Karayanis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yes, I assume yes. You can just do a thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I welcome people in person and online. In fact, I'm not there physically because I happen to be in Europe currently. And so this discussion and the keynote is related to a panel I'm also organizing later with colleagues about primarily democracy, environment and society, and technology issues. And then in particular, technologies that are of public interest nature, as we will discuss and explain, including, of course, artificial intelligence. Now, there is some concepts that are emerging. They're part of our ongoing research and experimentation. Many of you, if not all of you, are probably familiar with the Industry 4.0 concept, the digital transformation, socio-technical frame of reference. And then, of course, we have Industry 5.0 and Society 5.0 as concepts that have emerged recently. We've also been working on those. The European Commission and others have been recognizing those. These are more balanced, human-centric versus technocentric concepts. And we're now exploring sort of an emerging next generation set of concepts we call Industry 6.0 and Society 6.0. And also public-private people and planet partnerships. This is what the P5 stands for here in the title. And the GEO step is geostrategic, technological, economic, and political challenges. They're very much at the forefront of people's minds, whether they're in government or in the private sector. There is a developed democracies and emerging autocracies, juxtaposition, let's say, hopefully not confrontation. And that is the bigger picture within which we'll try to provide some thoughts and ideas and make some sense. I have been with the George Washington University School of Business for more than 25 years now. And so this has been quite an interesting time. The US started as the sole, I guess, superpower after the end of the Cold War. We're now immersing ourselves, willingly or not, into a new landscape of confrontation, and where technology is playing an increasingly important role. So we see here in the GeoStep context and the role of AI, how things need to be considered. Now, these are busy slides. I will not read every single sentence. I'll give people time to reflect on them, and I will highlight and focus on some points selectively. There are things in the nexus. I mentioned democracy, environment, and technology before. The nexus of factors at play involve the climate change, political instability, including populism. We had recent elections in Holland and Argentina, where some very disturbing trends were manifested, and then we had some additional concerns that continue to emerge with the AI impact on the economy, the future of work, and the future of society. And then, of course, therefore, economic inequality and technological disruption, as well as the potential and promise of technology. We choose to remain optimistic. The Industry 6.0 and Society 6.0 vision is about an era and a context where technology, starting with AI, actually can be put to good use. We have this AI for good concept that I'll touch on later on. So we have data analytics, predictive analytics, and of course, enhancement of real-time decision-making and choices. We have the instant economics and new developments and possibilities for different, again, applications, including how the Federal Reserve might operate, and of course, more agile governance and future planning. All of these things are, of course, requiring or highlighting the gaps, the policy gaps I show on the bottom left, inadequate policies failing to address emerging challenges and technological advancements that hinder governance. And of course, that's the challenge and the opportunity. So more specifically, in the Industry and Society 6.0 context, we see a brief description in the comments in red, and a sort of a juxtaposition with the Industry 4.0 and Society 5.0 frameworks. The balance between human-centric and technocentric is a critical issue and objective. We don't want to become enslaved by technology. We want to become liberated by the technology's potential. And that's where the challenge remains. And as technology develops the capacity to better understand, and then faster and also cheaper and so forth, interpret its surroundings and data inputs, develop 360-degree awareness, if you wish, and potentially, possibly even self-awareness, that becomes tremendous opportunity, but also challenge. And this is where what we look at is focusing on how to make the world of tomorrow a more human-centric one, enabled by technology. So, of course, this is not naive, rosy, starry-eyed thinking, rosy glasses thinking. This is about how to integrate, looking at the text on the right, bottom right, full integration of AI, machine learning, and advanced technologies in manufacturing to begin with, and then also building upon the human-centric approach guided by Society 6.0 mandates, where we emphasize responsible AI. We're reminded of Isaac Asimov's laws of robotics going back 50 years in science fiction that now has become reality. And then seamless integration, creating a mutually reinforcing and complementary cycle of progress between industry and society 6.0. More specifically, the interconnection between industry and society 6.0 pivots around a dynamic relationship with industrial advancements, driving economic growth, supporting societal progress, and then job creation, skill development, and fostering innovation. So we have all these things that are, of course, both objectives. There is an interesting dynamic in the ongoing global planetary meeting, UN meeting for the planet, the COP28, where, of course, and unfortunately, I think special interests are controlling the agenda, and that has become a real challenge, because this could be a very important opportunity to bring humanity together to address issues concerning all of us, specifically issues that relate to the nexus of democracy, environment, and technology. I have a recent article where I talk about democracy and the environment as endangered species. I think it's appropriate and important to conceptualize and realize the risks involved, and that they're not given. We know that the environment and climate change is really an open frontier with possibilities, mostly challenges and threats, but also opportunities. But democracy as well, including impact by environmental factors and disruptions, can become not at all a guarantee where it has, of course, taken roots. So the nexus of democracy, environment, technology refers to the intricate and inseparable connections between democratic governance, environmental sustainability, and technological advancements. It recognizes these elements as interdependent pillars that shape the contemporary global landscape. And so we need to see where and how AI can help us make complex decisions and trade-offs, sort of next generation game theoretic dynamic process where we have a lot of different factors at play, as I mentioned, regarding governance challenges, economic challenges, environmental challenges, societal, technological, and of course, policy overall challenges. You have all these things. And then, of course, cybersecurity threats, for instance, that are not to be taken lightly. And of course, displaced people, migration, and of course, divides that relate to digital, but also health, education, and other issues. That's the bigger picture. Now, one framework that we have developed and have been working on to further calibrate and validate in terms of that becoming a guideline for policymaking and practice implementation is what we call the quintuple innovation helix. This is borrowing from the DNA structures that nature has developed. The idea is that the knowledge interfaces, the data information and knowledge interfaces in these helical structures are optimized to maximize the surfaces, the interconnecting surfaces, and also, of course, minimize the distance, optimize effectively the throughput. And the idea here, by analogy, is to engage the key stakeholders from all the main components, pillars of society and economy, government, university, industry, and civil society. That, by the way, is the sort of the predecessor of the quintuple helix, the quadruple innovation helix. My research associates and I have been developers of those for some time now, more than 15 years ago starting. And then the environment is the fifth dimension, encompassing all four, of course. How do we get people from all these categories of stakeholders to engage in a manner that takes into account the challenges and the opportunities and the guidelines that they need to follow and be aware of to ensure, for instance, inclusivity in terms of civil society and, of course, environmental sustainability in all policies and practices. In a sense, being green should become really a superfluous type of qualification. It should be a given and a standard and an inherent function and factor in every policy practice. And things like agencies like the EPA should not be just another agency. I'm not taking sides in that sense. I'm just saying that these things should be diffused across all functions of government and, of course, private initiative, and be more than just lip service. There's been a lot of cynicism about ESG, environmental, social, and governance criteria for investing, for private sector and public sector activities. These need to be resolved and really embedded, as I said, diffused across all aspects of daily life and the economy. So this is now where AI comes in. It has emerged already as a strategic tool. It could further help us tackle the geostep challenges I mentioned before, relating to all sectors concerning not only the public area, the public domain, but also the private and the global context. So governance, economy, environment, society, technology, and policy factors and perspectives are part of this. And there are a lot of areas where AI can make a positive difference. We're providing some examples there. There's time I'll have a brief commentary about a couple of cases going forward. Now, the concept of public interest technologies is not necessarily new, but it has become of renewed significance and importance. In the panel, we'll talk about technological areas of technological development, evolution, and possibly even revolution that entail, of course, artificial intelligence, but also fusion and space technologies. And the idea is, how can we boldly go forward? Where very few, if anyone, has gone before, echoing Star Trek. But the idea is that we're not doing this, or we shouldn't be considering this as an option, but a necessity at this point. Not just to, it's not about colonizing space, it's about and figuring ways to ensure sustainability on Earth, for example. So public interest technologies encompass technology solutions that address and produce hybrid, as we call them, goods, public and private, with public and private aspects, and certainly an important emphasis on private as well as public good synergies. And this is, again, also where AI can come in place and play. We have some examples here in terms of best practices and opportunities where private initiative has leveraged public interest technologies. I'll give you a second to review those. There is, of course, IBM's AI for Social Good initiative, Tesla's Sustainable Energy Solutions, Microsoft's AI for Accessibility, SpaceX's Affordable Space Exploration, and Google's Responsible AI Principles. They all are contributing in their own ways, of course, and with their own private bottom line priorities in this dialogue, which I think is healthy and appropriate as long as there is both proper and effective transparency and regulation. Now, P5 is exactly how to approach this: public, private, people, planet partnerships. It's one way to enact the quintuple innovation helix thinking, and looking for collaborative efforts between all sectors, as we mentioned. And we list some examples here in terms of both the roles and the engagement that can take place by sort of category, public, private, people, and so forth. So there we have a rubric, in a sense, or a matrix as a frame of reference. There is clearly strength in diversity and a comprehensive approach, adopting this mindset. The enhanced communication, collaboration, synergies across sectors, even the interdependence, drives a thinking, sort of a design thinking, holistic mindset, where ways and means to accommodate needs and wants and priorities concerning all stakeholder categories, as I said earlier, are embedded by default and by design from the very beginning at the DNA of any solution or any practice or policy. And so we see here how that actually can produce unified action for impact, and also enhance and support adaptability and resilience. So some cases now in terms of AI-enabled solutions, I will just briefly list them here. Disaster response, things that people have experienced and continue to, and will unfortunately be experiencing more going forward, including superstorms, mega fires, and things of that type, floods. AI can make a difference in being predictive and preventive and even preemptive in terms of the magnitude of disaster, and certainly protecting human life. And of course, there are other things. There are difficult ethical issues, such as with the predictive policing. I mean, I'm reminded of the movie Minority Report going back 25 years with Tom Cruise, which is an interesting, I guess, predictor of all this. Precision agriculture, and this, by the way, relates to the possibilities that AI opens, where we can truly have abuse of power, of course, and that's where and why democracy and environment need to be taken into full consideration when dealing with technological possibilities and technology's promise and potential. Applying a social scoring to citizens and creating predictive policing, which is not science fiction anymore, unfortunately, could be a great threat to democracy, frankly, and this is a big issue that remains. Then we have precision agriculture, minimizing waste, optimizing performance, healthcare that also could be predictive, preventive, and preemptive through AI and being individualized and DNA-based. One concern is an example of the AI in disaster, PredPol, another for predictive policing, the yield, precision agriculture, and healthcare, personalized healthcare is another case of a startup that you can review at your own leisure. Now, another important tool in this is drones, and drones combined with AI could become, of course, the deliverer of, again, there's other movies like Eagle Eye, and other things that have been art often not just, it doesn't just emulate life, and of course life emulating art, but actually predicts life in some ways. And we see that with the movies too. So we have drones in geopolitics, as we know, and we have observed in Ukraine and other places. We have drones in economy, in politics, the environment, and this is something that, again, can bring about tremendous potential opportunities and capabilities that could be, of course, used in it's a double-edged sword. This is actually an AI coming out, the application of an AI, a startup company called SideDrones, coming out of Europe. They've recently received 1 million in EU funding, a grant, in fact, recognizing their potential and capabilities to identify waste on shores, seaside areas, and figure out ways to collect them and so forth. So that is one of the factors contributing potentially to environmental remediation and also protection in a sense. And then other examples of AI for good we see here in terms of space exploration, data analytics, autonomous systems, space sustainability, environmental monitoring, and human health in space. And so now we have a connection of AI and space, for that matter, and this is something we can come back to discuss in the panel. The idea is that we can learn from space, and there's of course the concept of the digital twins that is very much at the center of this, bridging both sides of the cyber-physical landscape, and space could be one area where this kind of experimentation and exploration could be a very important area of opportunity for positive exploration and positive exploitation. In addition, there is possibilities that can come back, benefits that can come back to down to earth, so to speak. We see here autonomous spacecraft navigation, space debris management. I mentioned cleaning up the shores. There's tens of thousands, or if not more, maybe millions of pieces of debris in space right now, and this is a big risk for spacecraft and satellites, but also these things could end up coming down to Earth eventually. So cleaning those up is another, so cleaning space. Clearly, I feel we should clean the earth and the oceans first in the air, but then space is also a domain where we are present and active. Data analytics for space missions, Earth observation, environmental monitoring, AI-driven space mission planning, space tourism, AI-based astronaut health monitoring, space-based renewable energy monitoring. This is another very interesting area where, again, we're bridging and connecting AI with space and energy. People like Elon Musk and others clearly have in their planning strategy and business model development many of these issues as opportunities. Case studies, again, in the AI for good in space context, Astroscale, Leo Labs, Low Earth Orbit Satellites Labs, the CART Labs, Orbital Insight, and ARCA Dynamics. These are startups in different places that have interesting applications under development. And of course, time will show whether and how they become successful enough and mature enough, and what are the ways they could contribute. Now, going back to public interest technologies, in private practice, there are dilemmas that are ethical, there are issues of technological readiness, economic viability, of course, regulatory compliance, and security and privacy concerns. We'll talk about the frontier, so to speak, and the opportunities and challenges of fusion energy generation, and how there are issues of tactical fragmentation versus strategic integration concerning both individual countries and the public and private sectors in those, but also across the frontiers, across the oceans, in a sense, whether it concerns the US versus Europe, or even democracies versus other kinds of governing regimes that have different types of priorities. They look at things differently, including technological risk. Now, what remains is that we need to, again, figure out ways going forward to go perhaps where no one else has gone before, and identify solutions for our challenges. We need to think, as I say, beyond the box, not just outside the box, and ensure that we have a better future, better options for tomorrow and for our children and their children. So in that sense, Industry and Society 6.0 leverage and built on guidelines for responsible AI deployment. There's been a lot of petitions for a moratorium on AI development. I don't think this is a practical way to address the issues we're exposed to, confronted by. I think we need transparency, we need accountability, we need fairness and privacy protection as much as possible. And we need to challenge our policymakers and practitioners, starting with ourselves as citizens of democracies, to engage, to figure out ways to develop better guidelines, more effective and efficient measures and laws and regulations going forward, to ensure that we have, as I said, better results from leveraging technology. So here I am, I guess 5 minutes ahead of my time. I'm happy to see if there's any interest for discussion or comments. So, and yeah, there is some bandwidth issues, and camera use is not advisable. So I welcome input from anyone. And I wish to say hello to my friend Eagles. So Mauricio.
Good morning, Elias. Over here, Mauricio Patron. Thank you so much for your presentation. We have one question by Andy Williams.
Andy Williams,
I'll read it
yes.
for you, if that's okay, or if you prefer to read.
I'm reading it. Yeah, it's a functional.
Awesome. Awesome.
modeling approach towards understanding human well-being can help us understand where technology large functions to shift portions of the pie from one person to another through competition, and where it functions to make the pie bigger through cooperation. Does this provide a universal way of answering the question? Yeah, where Vadis humanity. Okay, I mean, this is certainly rather more than not optimistic scenario. And I guess my take on this would be to, in essence, agree. The application and the trade-offs and the nuances, and I mentioned game theoretic considerations earlier. This is where the challenges and the opportunities lie, to ensure that competition actually is constructive and productive, and that cooperation also does not produce oligopolies, does not produce some type of collusion, but actually it is, as I would call it, co-petition, collaborative and competitive at the same time. So Eagles with this AI question. Well, I would probably guess, and this is a guess, that AI algorithms should be vetted and examined in a sense. And this is difficult, not possible to be truly reliable in advance, to really anticipate what can evolve in terms of what AI can do. If it becomes, as I said before, self-organizing, self-developing, possibly self-aware, this is really beyond even our comprehension at this time. But in general, there should be the focus and the concern about it, testing and vetting AI algorithms should be much higher than a drug, because AI algorithms can be pervasive and impacting everybody, or almost very many people at once. It's almost like releasing a very contagious a drug that actually produces a virus, very contagious virus. So, all right, so let's see. Thank you for the comments. Let's see. Do you have any comments on spill?
There are two
From Karen,
questions from the
media owners and hidden
Hello,
financial.
there are two questions here in the floor. Dr. Elias, 1 second.
Hello.
I
I'm
should
also-
not reflect and respond to the chat comments, or should I not? I don't know. You tell me.
Can you hear us here in the floor?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, okay, there is one question now. And another one there.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
can't. No,
that-
actually, I cannot. Sorry.
Hello, it's Michelle Friend, also from George Washington University. So I was just curious about what you do about
What exactly part of the university are you, sir? Sorry.
In the philosophy department.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, so how do you deal with conflicts between, for example, you have these different pillars, and one of the pillars, governance, for example, might conflict with an environmental problem. So, in other words, you've separated out different areas of concern and different sorts of challenge, but how do you coordinate those? What I don't see is a general vision. What you have talked about is public good, which everyone will agree with, but I don't have a definition of what public good means. So what I'm looking for is a sort
Okay.
of overall.
Yes, you're correct in the sense that what was presented is not as comprehensive and complete as perhaps it could be or should be. I wanted to first inform and expose people and educate, hopefully in terms of what some emerging concepts are and what the implications and importance of those may be. I certainly agree with you, but we do have, and in what we do, and in fact, maybe during the panel following, we can discuss some of the issues you raised. The application and effectively the implementation of the trade-offs is my interpretation, and correct me if I misunderstand, of what you're referring to. The coordination. So there is actually, this is an important area where we're putting a lot of our effort and our thinking, and whether it is inspired by game theory or other ways and means to incentivize smarter behavior, I would call it more enlightened behavior, is part of our concerns and considerations. There's very many interesting theories, both from economics like nudge and other areas that could be incorporated in this and combined with AI modalities. And that relates, in a sense, in my mind, to the earlier comment and question about cooperation versus competition. What was this? Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry if I didn't fully address your comment. Maybe we can address some other questions in the time left.
I'm afraid we
And I'm
don't
happy,
have time
Mauricio, I'm
left.
sorry, or Daniel, I'm
Oh,
happy to,
yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I'm afraid we don't have time left.
we're done,
These-
okay. I'm
these
happy to
questions-
accept email.
We can provide your email address to the attendees at the end of the event, but this session continues in a follow-up panel at 9:45 in room 3, which is downstairs. The other sessions in the other rooms won't start until 10:20. So for those who have more questions for Dr. Karianis, feel free to attend the panel at 9:45. Thank you, Dr. Karianis. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in the panel.